Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bet Show on The Mix as part of the Mayo Media Network. You'll see on your screens that we're joined by Ryan Baroff again in Sky's absence. Ryan, I'd ask you how you're doing, but I think you're in the same sort of fragile position that I am, in the sense we were both on John Parry, both on Aldrich Potkizer yesterday. I've kind of made peace with both on the fact that John Parry just couldn't buy a putt on the front nine, so probably didn't really deserve to win. And to be honest, Potkizer didn't really deserve to be in the playoff by the way he was playing on Sunday, right?
Yeah, it was unpleasant. Parry, he couldn't make a putt, and then he couldn't hit a fairway, which is very surprising for him because he tends to do those things really well. A little extra salt in the wound with Kreisvik winning because I bet him twice at this event in the last 5 years. So that was fun. Potgieter, yeah, I mean, really no pressure from Steven Yeager. You know, we obviously had pressure from Aaron Rai before he did what Aaron Rai does. But that break that, I mean, Brian Campbell got in the playoff, that is a once-in-a-lifetime loss. But, yeah, very happy for him. He's been close many times. I think that was his first professional win on any level. So,
yeah, you just have to kind of, I guess, let the feel-good story take over. I mean, it took me a while to feel like that, but I did like the meme where it was Tiger handshaking with the tree. That's always a good one.
That was good. That was good.
So there we go. It was good, but I think Kreisvik really impressive in yesterday. Like, for someone, I know he's obviously won a bunch on the Sunshine Tour, but just not been able to do it on the DP World Tour level, never really been able to keep his emotions in check. The only emotions he showed yesterday were just fist pumping, really. I know, like, things go your way, like, and you have a day like that, and yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I don't know if we now get carried away and think, okay, like, he's always had the talent and now he can finish, he should do it again, or whether we just go, look, it's just one of those days and everything fell in his place.
I mean, yeah, he's been around for a long time. He's gone through stretches where he was very consistent, especially with the iron play. And I think that's kind of what stood out yesterday. You know, I didn't really look at the stats too much, but it just seemed like he had every iron to 20 feet. And he just had, you know, he had birdie putts every hole while Parry was in the trees for most of the back nine. So
it was really strange because Parry just, like, for the first couple of holes, right, like he like, his ball striker was incredible. He'd been pretty good for, you know, most of the week in that department. That's why we obviously were picking him. Yeah, just lost it, right? Like, I think sometimes it's hard to do it all for four. I thought, in a perfect world, I thought that he'd had his bad day on Saturday. Kreisvik had his best day, and it was all kind of reversed. And it looked like he was doing that early on and very quickly changed. So, what do we know, eh? It changes very quickly. So, you just take the rough with the smooth, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Parry's a good player, though. You know, we saw him win already, kind of over the winter break. He's obviously older, you know, been around a while, but I think he's going to factor in multiple times this year, possibly this week, for all we know. So,
yeah, like I think like, I've probably said this a million times on this show and lost of words as well, so people are probably bored of hearing it. But I do think that COVID is going to skew our perception, at least for the next 5 or 6 years, on some of these players, right? Because he's 37 years old, which he is very much in the journeyman category of winning once in 2010 and then again in 2024. But if he was a 35-year-old who'd already had a win and was coming into, you know, the form of his life on the Challenge Tour and then up to here, I think we'd be viewing it very differently. And you just lost 2 years, right, of really being able to progress from tours properly and stuff. So a little bit like someone like Houghton Lee, like someone made a really good point. I think it was Laurie Cantor on Ben and Sam's podcast. Like, I think he just struggled with the COVID situation, couldn't go home, couldn't go with his coaches. And like, we don't really factor that in probably as much as we should do. You can't just make excuses for everyone as well. Like, he just struggled for X amount of years. He's obviously limited in terms of distance and things like that, which will always hold you back. But it's good to see him finally coming out. This week, South African Open, and it's at Durban Country Club, Ryan. Haven't played this course for this event since 2010, I think, when Ernie Els won. But we did play the Johnson Workwear Open. There was 3 rounds here in 2022. That was when JC Ritchie won that event. He won by 6 strokes. They used another course, can't remember the name of it, on one of the first 2 rounds, a little bit like a Torrey Pine situation there. But otherwise, we haven't seen it probably for a long time. Volvo champions, I think, in 2013. The sense that I've gotten from just past events and kind of other people's write-ups and things is that we're looking at a pretty linksy type golf course. I don't think it's a true links by any means, but you are by the sea and it is fairly exposed. So I think unless they've really toughened it up, I think from what Richie Ramsey said on X is there is some more risk and reward added and things like that. But I think we're going to get a pretty low score this week. Unless so basically they renovated the course in 2020 or after 2022 because there was just this huge flood. The whole course just flooded. It was built on a floodplain. It's just terrible. So it's going to be interesting to see what this course throws up. But when you get this kind of situation, Ryan, like, what do? Do you just lean on? I basically just lean on kind of South African form and past event form, and again, like that links element does help, but I think sometimes we can get too caught up in how people formed here 10 years ago as well. Like we should just look at it, who's playing well, who plays well in South Africa, and go by that, because that's what happened with John Parry for me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I assume people will bet JC Ritchie this week, just sort of looking back at that. I don't necessarily need someone who played great or won that Challenge Tour event a couple of years ago, but just seeing who was in the field, like, for example, John Parry was in the top 20, Jaden Shaper was around there. Like, there are some names there, but yeah, I'm with you overall. Recent form, I'm going to stick on the same guys, boost to South Africans. It does seem like it's a short course, so maybe, our guys who are purely bombs away, Hao Tong Lee, Wilco, probably not going that direction this week and going more the other way. Yeah,
it's funny you've mentioned one of the names already for me, but let's just look at the top of the boards. We've got Dean Burmester at 11-1, Laurie Cantor 14-1, Johannes Veerman 22, Jordan Smith 22, and John Parry 28. Was there temptation to go back to Parry at 28?
Not at 28. I did see a 33, which at least made me think a little bit. It was just very frustrating yesterday. I would not be surprised to see him play well at all. I was really annoyed because he's super slow on the greens, and I didn't know that. It was really tough to watch him. But yeah, Parry would have been probably the only other guy that I consider there. And I'm sure we have some overlap with our first pick.
Yeah, well, actually, my first one is going to be before the one we overlap on.
Got it.
It's Hao Tong Lee, who's 33-1. I did not come into this week expecting to bet Hao Tong Lee. And if you talk about South African golf, I wouldn't associate that with Hao Tong Lee at all. But just that nagging links element was enough to kind of make me look twice. And he's been third at the Open Championship. He's got like a 4th or 7th and a 14th or so ridiculous at the Dunhill Links. Like, he's a really good player at that event as well. And when you actually look at South African form, he has got 2 top 5 finishes at the Nedbank as well. I know it's a completely different event, completely different skill set required. He's got a couple of other sort of decent finishes, but nothing special. But it's mainly just that he doesn't play here. So when you look at the bank of form and think, he doesn't play well in South Africa, I think he's played like 5 times or 6 times in the country. So when you think about who he was and as a golfer, he probably wasn't playing these events very often because he didn't need to. Like, he was in the bigger events. He didn't. So I took that on board and then just looked at the fact he's basically the best iron player in the field at the moment. 13th, first, 19th, and second. 13th, first, 19th, second, and 6th in the last 5 weeks in approach. 34th, second, 35th, second, and 8th in tee to green. The fact that he was also 10th going into Sunday. I know you can't ignore the fact that he was just poor on Sunday, but I just have to think that someone of his caliber, when I look at how we're rating Laurie Cantor at 14-1, Jordan Smith at 22-1. And that's not to pick Veerman as well, 22-1. That's not to pick those guys out like individually, but then you look at Hao Tong Lee at 33. He's definitely at least as talented as those guys, probably more so in most cases. I think there's a gap between like Burmester and the rest because I think Burmester makes perfect sense. He's great in this event, and by all accounts, are probably a major player at this rate. But I do think Hao Tong Lee is probably overlooked slightly at these odds.
I think so. He definitely is playing the best, I would say, of those guys up there in that 25 to 40 range. And look, if this course is as short, it means there's going to be a lot of par 4s that are potentially drivable or borderline drivable. And we've seen him excel there. I think specifically back at I think it's Royal Greens, right? Where I think he even had 4 eagles in a round. He kept driving par 4s. Like, we've seen that thing from his game before. So yeah, I could definitely see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's give your first pick then at I guess 33-1 as well.
Yeah, Jaden Scaper, playing great. I've been kind of so with him, we've been on him for a few years now. Started sort of a made cut, maybe a top 20 type guy. I've been waiting for the upside, right? Finally, he had a top 10 at the Spanish Open in September, and now 5th in Qatar, followed by a 4th in Kenya. Obviously, coming back home to South Africa, I just think this is a perfect spot for him. He's still very, very young. I think he's only 23 still. Not your typical like young bomber. He hits it long enough, but really a good iron player. He hits a lot of fairways, pretty good putter. Just makes a lot of birdies, and I just think this is an ideal spot for him.
Yeah, he was the one. So I've taken Householding essentially over him, which could prove to be based on the fact that South Africans just obviously play well. But like one thing I will say, like you do have to have South Africans on side. Like don't go into this with a full card of Europeans. I think you're gonna get better value on some of the foreign players because there is a South African bias, but you do definitely need them.
Yeah, I think so. And like you mentioned, the 2022 Johnson Workwear, he played here. I think he finished, let's see, tied for 31st. Shot 3 rounds under par at this golf course. Also finished 5th in the South African Amateur here in 2018. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So,
yeah, he was 12th at halfway at the Johnson Workwear as well. So like even then, when it was 3 years ago, he was kind of in the mix. And yeah, I think the potential is really high for him. He's one of those ones where it feels like it's taking too long to get there almost. But I always exercise caution with that. Right?
Yeah.
I think we just get on these people earlier than ever now. Like it's like someone like Botguyter is a perfect example, right? Like he's 20, and if we had 3 years of him throwing away leads on Sunday, we're going to think about the fact we've been backing him for 4 years. But actually, we should just give the guy a break. I think.
Yeah, I mean, most of his you look at I have Data Golf open right now, and just according to their rankings, his best 10 performances, 8 of them are in the last 12 months. So he has certainly made a leap. And again, I've been waiting for okay, this guy has winning upside, and now back-to-back top 5 finishes. I think we're finally there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that assessment. This is the crossover. Daniel Van Tonder.
Yep.
40-1. We won't be alone in betting him for sure this week. No. Pretty simple case, Ryan. He has played, I think it's 15 events. His last 15 events or last 15 weeks in South Africa, he's top 10 in 13 of them. He's won 3 of them. He's finished 2nd in 4 of them. The only time he's made the weekend and finished outside the top 10, he finished 11th, and he's missed 1 cut. That's a ridiculous run of form. Add in the fact that he's also a winner of this event in the past. And I'll caveat that by saying that he's really struggled in this actual event, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. But he then just went out and won it. That was obviously the same year he won the Kenya Savannah Classic as well, the DP World Tour for the first time. So maybe just got hot in that year at this level. But look at how hot he's getting now. It's very hard to ignore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in some of the best form in the world, those back-to-back wins on the Challenge Tour, both on home soil. He's a prolific winner. I think a lot of people are going to, I guess they could have both, but make this decision between him and Sean Norris this week. Both fairly similar players, just in terms of have been all over the world, have won a lot, play well at home, playing well right now. I think Van Tonder is less consistent, but I'm willing to gamble on the upside. He can get really hot with the putter. Not very long off the tee, but pretty accurate. Really good short game. Just playing really well. I did not expect to see a 40-1 on him this week.
No, I fully expected to just be disappointed by the price, and it would be kind of 22-1. We don't bet him and hope he doesn't win type of thing. But for him to be 40 still, I just thought was, it's not insane. I don't think anything's insane in this kind of field, but I was just very surprised and pleasantly so, which is not often. So, happy to take a shot on Daniel Van Tonder at 40s.
Absolutely.
My next pick is a little bit bigger, so let's come on to your next pick.
Yeah, so I took 75 this morning on Dan Bradbury. I saw him as low as 55, possibly, with places, so depending on what you're looking for. So this one's just kind of a shout out to Sky. So he's a Bradbury guy. I don't know if he'll be on him this week. So it's been very interesting because Bradbury has been very solid off the tee so far in 2025, and the iron play has kind of faded. He's known for the iron play, so I guess we can hopefully expect that to come back a little bit. I was looking back at his win at the Open de France last summer, and again, it was coming off of like 6 straight weeks of horrendous iron play. So we've seen him win in South Africa before by a lot, and I just feel like the talent is there. I feel like the number was very good. If he can put the off the tee game with some approach stuff together, I just think he's one of the few guys in this range that has legit winning upside.
Yes, I'm definitely guilty of what I'm just about to say. But when we see players that are basically elite iron players, or that is what they build their whole game around, when that then nosedives, we just panic. We're like, okay, well, if he's not hitting his irons well, this guy is useless to me. I'm never going to bet him again. And what we don't consider is the fact that if he's that good with his irons, eventually he's going to spike again. And you just want to be on when that happens. You look at his performance in South Africa, again, very much like his whole career, very volatile, but he won that Joburg Open straight out the gates, 5th at the Nedbank a year later, which is a really big event for him, 3rd at the Joburg Open. Like, he's had 3 top 5 finishes in this part of the world already. That's going to be a huge confidence boost for someone just arriving here, right? And I think, yes, I'd love to have seen something from him, and I'd love to have seen like this building form, but you just don't get that anymore. Like, it's so hard to predict that with this depth of tour and how people change. I know, like, for example, like last week we did get a bit of someone like Jamie Rutherford, who you question whether that form is as worthwhile because it's on the Hotel Plans or Challenge or whatever you want to call it, and whether he's going to make a step up. He does. But by the same account, the best players are probably just going to come to the fore at some point. If Bradbury is considered one of the best iron players in the field on his day, then you just, at some point, it will happen, like it did in France.
Yeah, no, for sure. So again, last summer, as we went into France, those 5 events, he went cut, T35, T39, cut, losing on a ton on approach, all 5 events. So he is obviously a guy who can just find it. We've seen him win now twice in a pretty short stint. I'm there for the talent, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. I have gone with JC Ritchie. I know you said earlier about not necessarily going that way.
Yep.
And it feeds into that comment I just made about Jamie Rutherford. So last week, Jamie Rutherford and Gregorio De Leo both took good events on the Hotel Plans or Challenge Tour into that week, finished inside the top 5. And I do think JC Ritchie can do the same. So, as we said, this course hasn't been used for this event since 2010, but it did host those 3 rounds in 2022 of the Johnson Work, where he shoots 63, 65, 71 over his 3 rounds there. The 71 was when he was way clear, didn't need to do anything else.
Yeah.
Wins the event by 6 shots at 26 under. I don't think the course is going to play exactly the same way based on the renovations they've had to make, but you can't ignore the fact that he just completely destroyed this course the last time he was here. He's missed the cut in his last 3 South African Opens, but before that, 3rd, 6th, and 5th. So I don't have that question mark of can he elevate his game in his home Open. He's shown that he can. Current form: 5th, 9th, missed cut 14th, and 6th. If he makes the weekend, he seems to be hanging around, getting inside the places for us twice there. So for me, if someone like a Rutherford and Gregorio De Leo and no disrespect to them, that they can carry on form in that way, there's no reason I don't think that Ritchie can't, especially when you consider the fact he's a 10-time winner on the Sunshine Tour, 4 of those co-sanctioned by the then Challenge Tour. I don't know if I buy into the fact that he's looked at Croyswick last week and gone, if he can do it, I can do it. But it's got to be a similar thought process. Like, he might not be best friends or anything like that, but that is the mold, right? Like, you are a very proven talent at the lower level. You're now playing a course that's comfortable. You said you were Croyswick a couple of times in Kenya before. Like, eventually these people find the best course for them. Well, and Tonda here in 2021. I just think he's going to go ahead and.
I agree. I think what we talked about and what you're looking for this week, you're looking for a guy who's in good form, and really for the last year or so on the Challenge Tour, he's been a consistent top 10 player on that tour. He obviously can play well at home, and he wins. He's won 8 to 10 times probably over his career. So, I could definitely see it there.
And like the key point there, like I wouldn't probably pick him going into Dubai or Bahrain or anything like that. It's simply he's back at home. He's showing that form. He's 80-1 on a course he's already won on. And I know this is kind of contradictory to what I started out with. I don't know if I care about form from 5-10 years ago on a certain golf course, but
yeah,
you know, he is the most recent winner on a course, and he's 80-1. So I was quite happy with the price. The one other person I looked at in this area was David Rivetta at 80-1.
Mm-hmm.
He caught my eye a little bit. He did play here last time. He finished 7th that year. That Richie won 265s.
Yeah,
I just can't work him out. Like I think he's just so hard to predict.
I bet him a couple of weeks ago at like 125-1, so that would hurt if he's there. And I was just a little bit early. He drives it really well. You know, I think that's important here. He's long off the tee and I'm not super accurate, but accurate enough. And obviously we saw him win last summer, so I could definitely see it there.
And I think it's 4 of his top 10 performances in OWGR have come in South Africa. So he's obviously just loves this part of the world. And I think that's, you know, really important, as we said at the start of the show. A couple of more for you at 80-1, Ryan.
Yeah. So first one was Martin Kuvra. Just not ready to hop off yet, right? I know that you also are a big fan of his talent.
Yeah.
Once again, was like waiting for the upside, and he showed it. He was 4th in Bahrain, followed that by 5th at Qatar. Kind of a disappointing week last week in Kenya, but still made the cut and got 4 rounds in. Just really, just didn't putt well, really. I'm willing to go back there. I felt, again, 80-1 just seemed large for a guy who we know has a lot of talent here. So, and then I was looking back. He actually won back-to-back amateur events in South Africa in February of 23. I don't know too much about them, but it was the South African Stroke Play Championship, and the very next week, the South African Amateur Championship. So possibly some very good vibes for him here. I like the talent. He's accurate. He's a good iron player and willing to be early on Martin Kuvra.
Yeah, so he's the one I've only put 3 on the card at the moment. He's the one that's probably going to fill that 4th gap for me, in the sense of just, as you said, everything worked perfectly for last week. He got that form in Africa. He'd been trending in the right direction, had back-to-back top 5s. And I don't know that I would feel good jumping straight off again. Part of the reason I liked him last week was just those, as you said, those 2 amateur events that he won back-to-back and then got onto the tour and did it in a very short space of time. South Africa's just been his happy hunting ground, the African Championship. So,
yeah,
I think because like Mathaiga is just such a unique golf course, right? Like,
sure.
I think we think that if you play well in South Africa and you've got this good iron play and you're not the longest hitter, that you may thrive around there. But also you can just not be a course that you like. Like, it's very simple, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's a few of the guys in this field were in those fields, so it's like not like he can't beat them. Also, Ultra Potgieter was in both of those fields that he won. So you know, he beat some real players there for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think Kuvra is going to go on for me at 80-1. So
I would recommend it. Yeah, let's not hop off quite yet.
Let's do it. Let's stick there. The other guy, 80-1 for you, that promised.
Dion Hermishus. Yeah, we can't give up on Dion yet. Not the most consistent player in the world, let's be honest, but he's flashed both on the Challenge Tour and the main tour. He's been very, very close. He did win back at home last summer. I think he has one other win on the Sunshine Tour recently. And then a really good amateur player back at home too. Like, he won a ton of these events. One of them at this golf course in 2018. The South African Amateur was here in 2018, and it was, you know, only 36 holes. You know, not a great field, but he did win, right? So there's something to that. And he also won another small event a couple weeks earlier on this golf course. So probably one of the guys who has seen this golf course more than most. And again, in that 2018 South African Amateur, there were some names there. You know, Ewan Walker was 3rd, Jaden Scaper was 5th, Malcolm Mitchell was 9th, Christo Lamprecht was 9th. So pretty solid field with a lot of guys who are in this field that he beat there. So, and again, played great last week. He kind of choked it down the stretch, but he was at least lurking, and he finished 3rd. So
the pronunciation they were using on Sky Sports was so ridiculous, like Dion Hermihise or something like that. And I
Yes.
say ridiculous, by all accounts, if that is how you pronounce his name, then I'm completely sorry for calling it
I
ridiculous.
think it's Hermetius. Like I think it's close to that. It's definitely an H sound at the beginning.
But there's no way that I wouldn't just call him Germishay. Like that would 100% be like the name I'd call
We called him Jeremy Shoes for a while, so
Jeremy Shoes is fine. I think he'll enjoy that.
Yes.
I think with him, and my assessment of him came out with a lot of promise on DP Tour, didn't deliver in that first season. And by that I mean like it wasn't the consistent player that I thought he was going to be, because he had flashes. I think he was 9th in Japan, 3rd or somewhere else in another event. So he actually did show his kind of upside pretty early on. It was a KLM Open as well. There was like he had just a sea of red of like approach play numbers, right? And I think one of those things that you see on like Data Golf, and it bears it out so brilliantly, is like, okay, he's got an obvious weakness here. Now a lot of that's going to be drives the ball well, harder to gain strokes and approach, etc. And then when you look back to 2024, just really consistent again. Like 2nd in the SDC, 9th the Kenya Open, wins Limpopo, 10th, 3rd, 7th, 8th, 9th, 3rd, 5th, 11th. Like if you can start adding all those events in, he looks a bit more refined. And then I thought, okay, well, he hasn't really done it yet on the DP World Tour again since he's come back on, and then bang, 3rd last week. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. He's only 25.
No, for sure. And I think, again, he's the type of player who I will gamble on in this type of field, in this part of the world, for sure. And again, like if you look back at his best finishes on the main tour, it was obviously last week, and then the KLM Open, which, if you're looking at a short course, I feel like that's a good event, because you're always going to get those sort of shorter courses potentially. So yeah, Adrian Otegi was on that leaderboard. Barn Rat was up there. So definitely not, he doesn't need distance to be successful here.
No, for sure. I was tempted by Gregorio De Leo. I don't know if that's how we say his name. It doesn't sound very Italian to me when I say it, but that's just my accent. I don't know if it's a flash in the pan, Ryan, yet, or whether this is going to be who he is. It's hard to tell, I think. Yeah,
I looked at him a bit on the Challenge Tour. Again, we've seen him at the Italian Open. I think he's a solid player. I don't know if he's if he's the type of guy who's ever going to hold a DP card for like a decade, but he's in good form, right? It seems like he has the upside where he could potentially contend in a field like this.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think it's exactly like, is he riding a hot wave, which every professional golfer should be capable of doing? I mean, he's got through Q school, but just the fact that, like, I feel like if he was this kind of big talent that we were expecting to go on, like, he wouldn't have needed to go to Q school. That sounds a bit harsh, but like, he would have worked his way through the Challenge Tour quite quickly. I mean, he's 24, so it's not like he's 20. He's had a couple of goes at it. So yeah, not 100% sure. He was good on the Alps Tour. He won multiple times on there, but I think it might be a case of let's get him back to Italy and places like that, and he should succeed. So willing to hold on there, but I thought it was worth a discussion, because anytime you see someone 100-1 and finishing in the top 5 last week, I think it kind of catches your eye.
Absolutely,
for sure. After that, I felt it was really slim pickings for me. I know you've got a couple of bombs here, but like, I just looked, and Zihao Jin played well last week eventually, and like, I think that's promising at 110-1. I think someone like a Richie Ramsey can always come good at 90-1. Marcel Seams played well in South Africa, 150-1, but nothing I get excited about, right? Like we've got these like players littered around here, like Troy Merritt just keeps playing in these events. It's Callum Tarrant and Dale Williams, funny prices up and down. Like, we keep getting all these names. Robin Williams was someone that everyone was obsessed with. He's been 175-1 every week and doesn't seem to be doing it.
I think people are back on him a little bit this week because, I mean, he was a guy who got down to what? He was like 40-1 in some events on the main tour. So
nearly won at that price as well. Like he nearly delivered. So like, I do get it. So all of a sudden, like, it's just so hard to pick these names, right? He's watched 4 cuts in a row. It's hard to hang anything your hat on. So before we go into the final couple of picks from you, Ryan, just a shout out to all no listeners. So if you're on Apple or Spotify or any of those great places, then Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets The Mix, and then you will on the DP World Tour Bets Show. It'll be, me and Ryan or me and Sky every week, and there's a nice rotation going in, different views, and keeping us on our toes. And hopefully, a winner is not too far away again. I know you've delivered quite early for us already, Ryan.
Yep.
And now it's hoping that someone like Parry doesn't break our hearts like he did last week. Final 2 picks for the South African Open.
Yeah, wanted a couple long shots. So I stuck with some guys who I've been on previously. First one at 200 to 1 is Ryan van Velzen. I think he will be a popular bomb this week. He finished second at the for Dunhill back in December, where Norris won and Perry was tied for second. So again, just some good leaderboard overlap there was sort of what we're looking for. Tied for 11th last week in Kenya on a course that I don't know that I would necessarily expect him to play super well at. But just a believer in the talent. He won on the Sunshine Tour last year. He also won in 2023. And he, again, was a very solid amateur player here at home. I think he's also won on the Big Easy Tour or whatever they're calling it now. So I like these guys when I've seen that they can actually get across the finish line. I don't care what the level is, amateur, challenge tour, Big Easy Tour. I just like to see that. But I'm a big fan of him this week. And then the other one at 300 to 1 was Martin Forster. He also, was a very good amateur player here. I don't think he's won anything professionally, but he made the leap to the Challenge Tour in 2025. And first 4 events, he's gone tied for 20th, second, tied for 14th, tied for 19th. He's undoubtedly seen this course before one way or another. I just felt, a solid Challenge Tour player at home at 300 to 1 just seemed like a very big number. So Forster and Van Velzen for me, lots of V's.
Yeah, Van Velzen, actually, just while you were talking, I was kind of looking up the data on him, or the stats, whatever, and I think what's probably kept his price what it is the fact that he just hasn't played these South African events on the Hotel Planet Tour, right? Because the last 2 times he played in South Africa, 5th at the Bunye Championship, if that's what we're calling it, first round leader there, and then second at the Alfred Dunhill, where he was second going in Sunday, held on and finished second there overall. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the event form, and he's finished second in this event as well. Albeit a different golf course. I think he's been overlooked at the price. Like quite
probably someone, if you can get 8 places, 10 places, even 12 places, probably safer. But I believe in the talent. I've bet him a couple of times. Probably past 12 months or so. So willing to give it a look at 200 to 1.
Like I think it's a good thing for us, but like you just look and it's like miscut 61st, miscut 61st. It's like, oh, he's playing terribly. And this is kind of what we were talking about, in different vacuum with like Rosner, right, in Qatar, where we're like, oh, his form looks pretty disappointing at the PGA Tour, but we know he's played well prior to Christmas. And that's it. Mm-hmm. Like Van Velzen, I don't ever expect him to do well at Dubai Desert Classic. I don't expect him to do well in Bahrain. So he's missed 2 cuts, whatever. Like he's come straight back to Kenya, finished 11th. I think if he'd missed the cut again last week, I'd go, Ryan, like this is just a bomb for the sake of a bomb. But like this makes perfect sense. I like it.
It makes too much sense, right? Yeah, it does. And the only other guy that I was looking at, I think he's only 90 to 1 now, but I bet him a couple weeks ago at home. Finished 4th in the Challenge Tour, tied for 31st in Kenya. Jovan Rebula, Ernie Else's nephew. So again, want to make some course connections there. That Uncle Ernie has won here. He played at Auburn for a few years. I think he was there during COVID, so probably didn't get all of his golf in. But I believe in the talent. Don't think he can win in this field necessarily, but you're looking for like a top 10, top 20. I think Rebula is definitely in play this week.
So he was a classic case last week when me and Sky were discussing it. Like, does his form in South Africa translate? And it did, right? Like he finished 31st, solid enough.
Yeah, I bet him last week for sure.
Yeah, good opening and closing round. So I do get it. I can't not jump on that Van Velzen one with you now.
There you go.
You've convinced me.
We always have a lot of overlap, so let's do it.
We do, and no one better to overlap than with you at the moment. Apart from yesterday when we just got
yesterday unpleasant.
But no, I think that makes perfect sense. I like the cards that we've built there. So let's summarize the picks here, Ryan. So I'll go first. So Hao Tong Lee for me at 33 to 1. Daniel Van Tonder at 40 to 1. And then going into JC Ritchie at 80 to 1, Martin Coover at 80 to 1, and Ryan Van Velzen at 200 to 1. Ryan, if you just summarize your card for us.
I love it. Yeah, Jaden Scaper at 33 to 1. I'm with you on Van Tonder at 40 to 1. Bradbury 75. Kuvra and Hirschus at 80. And then Van Velzen 200 and Martin Vorster at 300 to 1.
I like it. And I always like to ask this question before we leave. Who hurts the most this week if they win?
Oh, for sure, John Perry. I think that one's pretty easy. Perry for sure. I just hope Burmester doesn't win. Like seeing a guy like that win at like 8 to 1 or 10, it's just not pleasant. So yeah, but Perry would be pretty brutal.
I think the temptation for me was to go with Burmester and Berger double. Like that is the only way that I'd be able to do it. I think that they've both got a great opportunity. Just quickly before you go, Ryan, like we're both on Matteo Manacero at the Cognizant Classic. So my reasoning was, if you look back to when he was what he was, he'd been 29th and 12th here. And when you look at his form, he's making cuts on the PGA Tour at the most like bipolar opposite courses to what he should be good at, right? Like they're all pretty much long driving golf courses, apart from maybe the Amex, which, you know, he could have done well at. I think he was 20th after the halfway mark and hasn't seen those set of golf courses before as well. So I'm willing to just take a shot on someone that has played here twice, has the perfect skill set for it. Europeans tend to do well at PGA National anyway. And there's just been this kind of crossover of Open champions playing well there. He's been 13th and 19th, I think, in the Open. He's also won Wentworth, and there's a lot of crossover with that here. So that was kind of where I went with that Matteo Manacero pick. Yeah,
pretty similar. He wasn't on my original list, but yeah, he's made a really good sort of transition from the DP World Tour, probably better than I thought. And then, like you said, he's done it at a bunch of different courses. Like didn't play well last week, but still made the cut in Mexico, played well at Torrey Pines, played okay at the Amex. The biggest concern for him, right? It's going to depend what the rough is like. He's the worst driver I've ever seen, like worse than Eric Cole. He can't hit fairways. He hits it short. And so if the rough's up and like the wind is up, he could definitely get blown off this course. But then, like you said, when he was playing well, he played well at this golf course twice. So he's almost 300 to 1. So like, I don't need much. I bet Danny Willett, who's even deeper than that. So kind of the same premise there.
Yeah, I just hope that he's just going to kind of. I feel like when he's hitting these balls into the rough, he's going to be trying to find a few extra yards. That's what ruined his career for 10 years, right? He knows he's at Torrey Pines in Mexico. He's got to give it a go. Mexico, you've got to go for it because missing the fairway isn't really much of a punishment. I think if he is sort of lasered in and he's got the kind of water in one place and
just the off the tee game worries me.
Yeah. I think
absolutely. So we'll see what the rough is like this week.
Fingers crossed. We'll call it a day there, Ryan. Thank you as ever for jumping in. Looking forward to one of our picks winning in South Africa, and let's hope it's Daniel Van
Velzen. Nice for a change.
Or Ryan Van Velzen.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, let's do Ryan Van Velzen. Yeah,
that'll be good. Thank you very much, RB. Take care.
All right, see you, Tom.